We are nature. We're more than half ancient water and almost 1/5 carbon. We are literally stardust, our elements cycling and reforming over millions of years in a continual act of creation. But what happens when we disrupt the cycles that create life? What do we do when the water that makes up more than half our body is no longer clean? And when the earth heats up so much that the water we need evaporates and rises to the heavens, leaving us with catastrophic fires on earth? How can we keep water in living things rather than having it cycle rapidly in and out of the atmosphere in larger and larger amounts, evaporating, then falling in massive downpours that wash away homes, roads, animals, soil and trees? In the city of Blue Mountains, we've established a Planetary Health Centre where we're examining water and other natural and social systems to explore what we can do to restore the health of our planet.
We're on country. We're on the traditional lands of the Dharug and the Gundungurra people, and I pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. We're in the Blue Mountains, the World Heritage listed Blue Mountains, and we've been natural disaster declared 6 times in recent years, 5 times for water and once for fire. What we're doing is we're learning how to manage water in the landscape to minimise the effects of future natural disasters. We're creating a city that is more resilient and more fit for a climate change future.
Well, it all goes back to the year 2000 when we commenced an amazing journey with our community that resulted in the establishment of Blue Mountains Sustainability Model and our map for action for a more sustainable Blue Mountains socially, economically, environmentally. And our community, they came up with the focus on sustainability. At the heart of the Blue Mountains Sustainability Model is a picture of planet Earth. It's there because when we did all this work with community and when we reviewed what was happening across the whole world, we realised the connection between the health of people in our communities and having a healthy planet. The role of local government is absolutely key. Local governments are the level of government closest to the people, and they manage local government areas socially, economically and environmentally in an integrated way, hopefully. And so what we're trying to do is work with our communities to create systems in the local government areas that can be scaled and can grow exponentially. In some ways you could say to create a bottom-up revolution, because the world's made up of local government areas. We know we've got to do things differently, and that includes also creating a compelling vision for a future that will give hope to our young people, where we can be a beacon of light, a way forward that perhaps is different to the current paradigm.
We believe that the stories we tell help create that compelling vision for the future. So we've created a new type of hyperlocal news. We've employed storytellers in every neighbourhood to share the inspiring solutions emerging from our community.
So we're heading to the South Lawson Bush Care Group site, which is in the upper catchment of a swamp. And we're just going to have a chat with Karen Heising from Bush Care. I'd like to find out from Karen what the broader impacts are of the work that they're doing at that site.
Historically, there would have been swamp all on that slope above the site, above unformed Waratah Street, towards the creek. That has been cleared historically, as it's happened throughout the mountains and elsewhere in Australia for urban development. And so that's now being cleared, so the water's becoming more channeled. Mm-hmm. There's water's rushing through the system rather than being held in the swamp and then released slowly and then filtered through the vegetation and soils. It's coming down in a rush, causing erosion and then bringing sediments down through the system as well. And also includes nutrients, pollutants and weed seeds as well.
I think that's quite important because we live in the Blue Mountains and we're all kind of walking these bush tracks and seeing these lovely areas and experiencing the wildlife, seeing crayfish and other creatures in the waterways. And really we have a lot to thank. We have to thank these volunteers who come out and clean up the sites that lead into those waterways, because if they're not doing that work, then I gather that there's quite a big impact downstream on all those creatures. I mean, I really think that we are surrounded by negative stories that are pumped through multiple media channels. And if that's all that we consume and all we read and hear, then, you know, we're going to lose hope. So these stories provide the opposite. They provide hope and solutions and give people an opportunity to engage and do something.
We're also working with young people to give them the skills to tell this different type of news. News that's constructive and changes the current paradigm.
Action! Did you know that waste in the fashion industry is the second most polluting industry after oil and gas?
If current production, volume and processes don't change by 2050, the fashion industry will use a quarter of the world's carbon budget.
Although, not all hope is lost, because in the crazy cool town of Katoomba, upcycling clothes is an excellent way of preventing clothing wastage.
Our Pluriversity program is providing even more local government and community-led learning opportunities to inspire the cultural change we need.
I don't imagine going backwards. I imagine humans going into a future, reconnecting to the forces that generated the life that they're a part of, using the best of the knowledge systems that we have, including Indigenous knowledge systems, and terra leben, which means let the earth live. We'll be punching the air. So the idea of the symbiose is to give young people in particular a vision of the future that they find compelling, that they actually want to create and build themselves.
Our Pluriversity is addressing the interconnectedness of everything we do. It has been estimated, for example, that the fashion industry is responsible for 20% of all global wastewater, enough to quench the thirst of 5 million people. To tackle this, we've written news stories around the impact of fast fashion, we've created shopping guides for pre-loved clothing, and our upcycling fashion program is helping create new social enterprises that reduce textile waste. From events like the world's first Planetary Health Day, which brought together council services, community groups, businesses and agencies like the RFS to connect everyone with the resources they need, to workshops, forums, bush care, mentoring programs and internships, we're recognising that people learn in different ways, and we're providing the skills and connections that help everyone take the action we need. On site, we're demonstrating how to build ponds for wildlife, how we can grow food in the most water-efficient way using drip irrigation and wicking beds, and how we can create compost to hold more moisture in the soil. We've also worked with the community to design plans to reduce the risk of future disasters. Coming back again to water, the Planetary Health Centre itself is located above a swamp which cleans the water flowing from our built-up areas into the bush and from the mountains into Sydney's water supply. It's in the perfect location for a water demonstration site. From the site, we're exhibiting art and sharing stories to help us all respect and understand the importance of water.
So I was looking at the whole system, which brought me to collect little samples from all the different levels of a system that the water will sort of percolate through to eventually come out at the bottom in a very pure and clean but live way. It's not dead water like we get out of our taps. It's full of life. It's full of microbes and all the good stuff.
We've got evidence of giant eel, serpent creative figures that were known to be along the river. We know it as a story down on the plains as well, of the creator of the mountains and the rivers. The responsibility that comes with being custodian is to pass on that role to others too, because everyone shares this country now and we have a very important role to take care of that and minimise our imprint on the land.
by minimising our use of poisons and other things that will damage the land and pollute our waterways. And, you know, our old people knew that water is sacred. It's something that we have to value and spend more time and attention focusing on caring for that precious resource that we all share.
The dwarf mountain pine is a truly incredible plant. It's a 200 million year old living fossil, and the only place you can see it is here in the upper Blue Mountains. It's only found in the spray zones of a handful of waterfalls between Wentworth Falls and Katoomba. In most parts of the world, if you want to see a plant that looks like this, you're looking at rocks. They only exist as fossils. But here, because the waterways of the Blue Mountains have created this protective mist that's kept it safe from fires, that's kept it in just the right conditions, you can actually still see a living one of these plants today. Unfortunately, we're now starting to see some of the dwarf mountain pines dying off after all of this time protected, and we need to figure out what's happened. One possible explanation is it's just the sheer amount of water they're getting blasted with. We've changed the way water moves in the landscape by covering the porous soil with hard things like roads, driveways and roofs. Far more water ends up getting pumped into the creeks and blasting at these plants than they would have ever naturally seen in recent history.
To protect our precious bushland, we're demonstrating how installing more water tanks can play a critically important role during periods of heavy rain. The water collected by tanks can be diverted to indoor use. This lowers water bills, but also helps reduce the stormwater runoff from the city's hard surfaces.
We've got an internal water pump which is connected to this outlet here that can run toilets and washing machines inside your house if needed. For this application, we've got it running the sprinkler wall at the moment. We've got a valve there for the firefighters to hook up to if need be, and another valve down the bottom for anything else.
At the centre, we're also showcasing the latest Hydroloop technology, which can clean 40% of grey water created by households and businesses.
We got a taste for a new type of drought in 2019 and 20 to 21, where it just didn't rain. What's important about Hydroloop is its cost is pretty much competitive with a rainwater tank. Smaller footprint, and I guess the other key difference is that it's climate independent. It doesn't need to rain. It uses whatever water's already in the house, whether it be rainwater or mains water, or it could even be recycled water. It recycles that once more at least. So it doesn't rely on rainfall like a tank does.
On site, we've built a large underground water storage system to catch and clean stormwater. It's a model that can be used under roads, parks and gardens to reduce flooding while also storing water for future droughts and fire seasons. We're demonstrating the latest research on protecting our buildings from future fires with a demonstration bushfire sprinkler system fed by the water we've gathered on site.
The second sprinkler we've got is a flat fan or curtain sprinkler, which we think is best to protect a window or door in a fire situation.
There are so many ways to manage water to reduce the risk of extreme weather events turning into disasters, both for ourselves and for all species. The more water there is in a landscape, the less chance there is that it will burn. Moisture cools areas in summer and warms them in winter. We gave medical students thermal imaging cameras to measure the heat coming off different surfaces. They were shocked to discover that the temperature of dry pavers in full sun and the temperature of moist grass in the shade of a large tree was 30 degrees Celsius on a mild day in Katoomba. Through our neighbourhood news, we're sharing stories of how we can create more green spaces now to reduce the impact of future heat waves.
The idea is to tackle urban heat and the urban heat island effect. So we are planting across the whole of Greater Sydney to address that. Cooling the schools is a beautiful way to engage children, to teach them about subjects like climate change. What better way to get kids out in the sun, out in, their hands in the dirt, and thinking about and knowing and learning about all of that heavy stuff, but coming away feeling, actually, I've just done something for the future and I feel really happy about that. Like, it's such a beautiful, light-hearted approach. I think that's the way to go.
Well-connected and well-prepared communities are stronger communities, better able to adapt and support one another to reduce the negative impacts of future challenges. Our neighbourhood news sites have events calendars, community directories and guides for volunteering. They also share information like real-time air quality monitoring, guides to help people find air-conditioned and naturally cooler places during heat waves, and links to all the agencies that can provide support in extreme weather events or other potential disasters. And of course, they highlight the inspirational stories of people acting across our bioregion, from the lower mountains to Lithgow. Through stories and actions, our communities are helping each other to restore ecosystems and to create the just world we need, in which everyone has access to a livable planet. We are nature, and in the Blue Mountains, we're dreaming of a time when the land might give thanks for its people.